How's it going, OUA football fans? Welcome to Semifinal Saturday. My name is Adam Jenkins. With me today is the 2015 Yates Cup champion, Alex Reid. Today we're talking Mustangs and we're talking Gryphons. The last time these two teams met in the regular season, you were there for that ball game. It had lightning, it had thunder, it had delays. What do you remember the most about that game?
Well, I remember it being long. It was very, very long. Game didn't kick off until 9:30 at night and didn't finish until 12:30 a.m. the next morning. Just an incredible game between two teams that have built up a great rivalry. I just remember it being an absolute spectacle. It's just an incredible game.
Now, with that game going to overtime, it was likely that if Western was going to lose in the regular season, it would be that game. They prevailed. They ran the table 8-0. Looking at the regular season stats, you can see that almost 50 points forward per game for the Mustangs and less than 2 touchdowns against on average. Guelph, not too bad numbers either, but when you're looking at the Western Mustangs, you got to bring your A game.
Oh, you definitely do, especially when they rank number 1 in offense and number 1 in defense. 48 points forward per game is unbelievable, and 13.3 points against per game. Often gets overlooked because of how many points they score, but it's an unbelievable number too.
Perfect season for the Western Mustangs. We're used to seeing them dominate the OUA, Alec, but I'm wondering what you've seen from them this season that sets them apart from other Mustangs teams that have been fielded in the past.
Well, it just seems like no matter who's on the field for the Western Mustangs, the train just keeps rolling. It doesn't matter who's in a quarterback, whether it's Chris Merchant or Stevenson Bone, or which one of their multiple running backs gets a chance to take a snap. Western just finds a way to win games and win them very easily. They just seem to just roll on no matter what. And especially you look at the defensive side of things, their defense has been absolutely lights out. We talked about it before, 13.3 points against per game is an unbelievable number.
And speaking of lights out, the big-time backfield that the Western Mustangs have fielded, not too shabby themselves. What can you tell me about the 3 men who've really been dominating for them?
Well, Alex Taylor, Cedric Joseph, and even to a certain extent, Trey Humes has gotten some touches. But it just seems like no matter what happens in the game, they're just going to roll their running backs. And that's a big boost for Western because they can just continue to run the ball. You talk about when you sometimes overfeed a running back, he gets a little tired and the production starts to slow down. But when you have 3 running backs that can all carry the ball with a lot of success, it makes it very easy to switch out and you don't have to get your running backs tired.
Now for the Guelph Gryphons, they were out the services of James Roberts for 4.5 games. He came back in the quarterfinal round. How much of a big boost is that to this Gryphons offense?
Well, it's huge because James Roberts, not only is he their leader, but he ranks number 1 in the OUA in quarterback efficiency rating. You see 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions over the 5 games that he played this season. And James has just been a real true leader on the team. You see whenever he's out on the field, there's just a calmness about the rest of the players around him. He can make a lot of different throws and just really commands that offense and does a very good job of driving them down the field with a lot of efficiency. 4th-year man, we saw him in the Yates Cup in 2015. He already is a champion.
We mentioned the defense has been pretty good for the Guelph Gryphons as well, but while they've been good on average, they've also had some games where they've shown some touches of inconsistency and lots of points allowed. How are they going to be able to tighten that up tonight when they host or when they travel to Western?
Well, when you talk about their 2 hiccups that they had, one was against Western where they gave up 41 points, and the other was against Waterloo giving up 49 points. The biggest thing is they've got to learn from the game against Western where they struggled. But when you talk about this defense, when it's on, it's one of the best defenses in the OUA. Look at week 8 against Laurier when they gave up 14 points and shut down this high-powered Laurier offense the entire game.
Okay, let's switch over to talking about our X-Factors now. No real surprise for the Western Mustangs. You have a perfect season. Much of that is due in large part to your quarterback, and Chris Merchant is your X-Factor. Tell me why.
Well, because when you look at Western, you talk about they're the number 1 rushing team in the OUA, and they just seem to pound the ball and really grind out a game. But Chris Merchant is a big factor in this because of the fact that he can make every throw on the field. Not to mention that he can also run the ball, whether it's on QB running back options or whether he's escaping out of the pocket. Chris Merchant can do it all, and when you need a first down on a 2nd and long situation, you're going to give the ball to Chris Merchant.
Now, while it may not be a surprise that a QB is your X factor for Western, it might be a bit of a surprise to some that for the Guelph Gryphons, you're picking the kicker. Why is that?
Well, first off, punters are people too. Gabe Ferraro is a weapon on the field. Anytime you get over half, it seems like he's going to make a field goal for you and put points on the board, set a new single-season record with 33 field goals made in 2017, which is unbelievable when you consider that they only play 8 games. And when you look at week 9, 7 for 7 against Carleton is absolutely incredible. Gabriel Ferraro hands down, is the X factor for the Guelph Gryphons today.
Okay, let's talk about some predictions now. I think you might be a little bit biased in yours as a Guelph Gryphon or former Guelph Gryphon yourself. Why do you think they have what it takes to beat Western today?
Well, I think they've seen Western, and they know that they can hang with Western, taking them to overtime. I think they're going to look at the film and learn a lot from that game, especially when you look at the first half. They had a lead going into half. I think Guelph is a better team than they were at that point in the season, so that's why I'm going to take Guelph.
I think the Western Mustangs learned some things as well from that game. I think they're just too good. Not only do I think they're going to win this game, I think they're your Yates Cup champions and could go quite far in the U Sports playoffs. Should Western win this game, they will host the Yates Cup next Saturday. And if Laurier wins the other semifinal, we could be looking at a pretty juicy rematch from last year's games. You could say there'd be a lot on the line in that one. And just a reminder that we are your official home for the digital content surrounding the Yates Cup next Saturday. Our pregame show begins at 12:30. We'll be airing live on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook Live, and a whole lot more. Make sure you get your questions in for us. We'll do our best to answer them for you next week. And then, of course, the pinnacle, the Yates Cup game itself, it will be kicking off at 1 p.m. Mark Lee and Justin Dunk will have the call on that one beginning at 1 p.m. on CHCH. That's going to wrap it up for Alec and I today. We hope you enjoyed the ball games today. We'll see whose prediction comes true, and we'll talk to you next week.